afraid of your neighbor is pretty stupid, because there's risk in everything. 1,200 people die every day. You know what they die of? Way more than COVID. Driving your car. That's a fact. Now, how the hell do you drive down the street at 65 miles an hour, with someone coming straight at you at 65 miles an hour? There's nothing to protect you except a yellow line. How do you do that? And every day, you know, I know, we all know, every day people cross that line, don't they? They're drunk, they fall asleep, they're texting, and they kill people. 1,200 a day. So why don't we all just stay home in our house? Because you then have no life, no business, no anything. So let me remind you, life is risky. You're not going to get out alive. That's how risky it is, okay? How do we do it? It's worth asking, since we're all here, to see if we can take our lives and our businesses and the people who want us to move to the next level. I feel a kinship with you guys, and nothing's going to come from Mr. Russell to you. Because you're all people that have taken that step of risk, and that four-letter word that seems to be the thing people are trying to avoid at all costs today, which is impossible. The only way to have no risk is have no life. And you need to take intelligent risks. In fact, you know, I've spent more than a decade studying the greatest financial traders in history, all self-made billionaires. Nobody from the Lucky Sperm Club, nobody inherited it, they all did it themselves. They all did it different ways. And they don't just take massive risks. I'm not promoting that. They take intelligent risks, called asymmetrical risk reward, where I'm taking a little risk compared to the upside. I'd say driving your car is taking a little risk compared to the upside of having a life. And some other areas you might look at it that way. But you've already done that in this thing called business. You've taken the step. Now, some of you fully, some of you partially, understand that. And all of us in this room are different stages. But risk is life. If you want a life, you have to take risks. And by the way, how many of you, the greatest things in your life have come from some significant risks, right? So I hope that for you, you will not let the culture condition you. I doubt you would, or you wouldn't be here today. Or even if you're here from some other part of the world on Zoom. And I really respect you for that. I also respect you because we're all brothers and sisters in the path. We're trying to figure out how to help people. Certainly we help ourselves as we grow, but we only get rewarded in proportion to how much more we help other people. If you want to make $1 billion, help 1 billion people. It's not hard to make $1 billion.
Come on.
But you got to start with one, you. I'm the product of what you're doing right now. I'm the product of self-education. I have nobody in my school, my environment, nobody in my family that ever was successful in business or financial terms, that's for sure. And most of them, without being disrespectful, not really successful in the most important area, emotional terms. Nobody's fault. Just a different belief, a different philosophy, because your beliefs create your life, and your beliefs can destroy your life, depending which ones you adopt. I'll tell you what I'd like to have you consider destroying right now, because before I do any talk, I always have a bunch of people interview, ask a bunch of questions. We've done that here too. And I keep seeing this phrase, the imposter syndrome. How many feel times you got this imposter syndrome? Let me see your hands. Keep your hands up, look around the room. It's fucking bullshit. I'm sorry for my language, but I didn't mean to use that language, but I'd rather be raw and real. What is the imposter syndrome? Someone raise your hand and tell me. Now, by the way, I'm on your side. I'm not here to attack you. I just want to understand. What is it, Jim? Not believing you are who you put yourself up to be, or believing you're not enough, right? And I want you to notice the vast majority of you raise your hand to that piece. Can I just tell you what it is? It's a fancy word for I'm scared. Yeah. It's a fancy way to create a thing that you have, that you can talk to other people about. See, if I have a significant problem, then if I'm not making progress, you know, it's just this thing I have. It's bullshit. It's fear. Guess who's scared? Who's scared? Look around you outside this room. Almost everybody's scared. And it's nobody's fault. We have a media that's good people. I'm not here to rag on the media. They're good people. They're doing their job. Their job is to serve their shareholders. The news is no longer informs us. That was decades ago. Now its job is to startle you, to piss you off or to excite you. And there's algorithms of how to do this in social media. They're even better at it. But everybody in journalism knows if it bleeds, it leads.
Amen.
And so today, if you manage, and you used to be able to avoid the news, now you can't. It follows you in your pocket. It's with you everywhere. And so I have so much empathy for human beings. They're so scared because how could you not be when you're being inundated 24/7? Did you see Project Veritas where they have that revival out? You know what I'm talking about? The great group called Project Veritas, and they sent this woman out on a date, on a swipe right date, whatever they call those things, figure what it's called. What's it called?
Tinder.
Tinder. On a Tinder date with the top producer at CNN, and she's wearing a camera right in the location where he'd be staring. And then she started asking questions, and he wanted to impress her, so he told her everything. On camera. About how ratings were dropping, and Zucker would call him the red phone, and say, put the death numbers up, put the death numbers up. And then he talked about people aren't reacting anymore. You know why? You've never seen any death numbers anymore, because the numbers are no longer scary. So guess what? Guess what they're doing? He says, so Zucker's new thing is climate change, because we can scare the shit out of people with that forever and it never ends. That's the new thing on CNN. Of course, CNN's lost 80% of their viewership since January. The decision to make fear is the wrong decision. I respect any decision you make. When we're a mask, we're a mask. Vaccine, not vaccine. I would love that if you could make that and educate yourself based on what you believe is right, not letting somebody scare you.
That's right.
And if you're going to be in business, you got to stop this fear bullshit of telling yourself that you have something somebody made up and now you all believe this bullshit.
Let's go, Tony. Come on, Tony. Thank you.
I don't think I'm enough. Guess who doesn't think they're enough? I've spent the last 44 years of my life. I started when I was 3. Not supposed to laugh at that. I've spent 44 years of my life traveling to 195 countries. I've worked with the most successful people in the world and the most challenged. I've worked with kids in east of London or south of London addicted to cocaine. I've dealt with the top CEOs in Hollywood addicted to cocaine. And they both have reasons why they're there. I've dealt with people with 52 multiple personalities splitting in the room of my seminar, putting them back together again. And I've dealt with people with no personality with a bigger problem. There's nothing I've not seen. And what I can tell you is all that stops you is just fear. But we come up with all these stories because it feels so much better than saying I'm scared. Because we're all achievers in this room. Who considers yourself to be an achiever? Make some noise if you're an achiever. Achievers, we don't get scared. That's bullshit. We get stressed. Stress is the achiever word for fear. Right? Because I'm stressed. I gotta get this done. What are we going to do? What is that? Oh, I'm going to fall apart. What if it falls apart? I'll fail. What if I'll be worthless?
Come on.
So if I follow the trail of your stress, it will take you to your fear. And what I want you to know, my dear friends, be more gentle with yourself. Everyone's afraid because of all the 2 million-year-old brain. And it's designed not to make you happy. That's your job. It's designed to make you survive. And to survive, fear is a great thing, isn't it? Because what does it do? It does it quick. It looks for what's wrong all the time, unless you train it not to. It looks for what's wrong, what could hurt you, and it was designed to watch for a saber-toothed tiger. But we don't have those anymore. So now it's, what are people thinking of me? Do I have enough money? And if you're broke in the United States, and I don't want anybody to be broke, but if you're on government assistance, you're in the top 10% of earners in the world.
Wow.
That's a fact. Most of the planet still lives on $3 a day. Think about that. We've completely lost perspective. So we have this fear about shit that, like it's life and death, and it's not because the system's still there. We don't know the way to use it. So if you don't take control of it and you let the environment control you, you're going to settle for far less than you deserve to be, share, create, give, do, or enjoy. And so the secret is to stop telling yourself these stories that are limiting you. Because so many of you are doing well. In this room, I mean, let's be honest. If you're in business, you're a gladiator. Why do I say that? Because there's very few sports where the more you play, the more likely you die. And business is one of them. Let me give you the stats. My dear friends, if you're worried about risk, Here's the stats. In the first year, what percentage of businesses fall? Most of you must know. What are they? Fail. 50%. And it's so easy to be in business today. When I was a child, walking uphill both ways to school 10 miles, when I started business, you had to like spend money and shit. You couldn't just do social media for free and have brochures you could just throw online. You had to mail shit and pay for it. Print it out. There were big costs, there were big risks. You had to open a building, you couldn't do things virtually. Today there's so little risk and 50% still fit. Because people are weaker. Or weaker because it's easier. Here's history. Good times make weak people. Weak people make lousy times. Lousy times make strong people. Strong people make great times. Where are you in that phase? Think about it. Where are you in that phase? If you were born in 1910, our lives are shaped by stages, seasons. The first season of life, your springtime is 0 to 20. Anybody here 20 or younger? Raise your hand. 20 or younger? 21? Awesome. Nice to see you. Great to see you guys. Now, for some people, it's 0 to 6 and you have to grow up because there are problems around you. But overall, the first season of life is springtime. You grow and you learn. And people feed you ideas. But somewhere between 16 and 21, you go to the next phase. Summertime, when you go test yourself, and you start figuring out what do you believe, not just what you were told. When you start to test out, other people told you what couldn't be done, and many of you, my guess is, you decide, oh, that's bullshit, I'm gonna try something different. I don't think that's the limit. Who's with me on that here? Say aye. And you believe you're invincible. You're gonna be a billionaire and president of the United States, and have unbelievable relationships, and 50,000 children, and whatever it is you've done in your head.
Right. Yeah.
But somewhere after 20 years of summer and testing, people wake up and start going, maybe I'm not impenetrable. Maybe there are lessons still to learn. Maybe I won't be president, but I can decide what I really want to be versus just what my ego says. Where is a sense of mission for me? What am I here to do? Now, some of you did that in your teens and 20s, and I understand that. I'm just telling you the general culture, what the culture creates, right? Some of you had to grow up much earlier because of demand. But these are the stages of life. And that stage, coming of age, 17, 18, 19, 21, 22, what's happening in the world shapes a good deal of how you turn out that way. Not completely, because we can make individual decisions, but our culture and our community and our generations are affected by what was happening at different stages of life. If you're born in 1910, what happened 19 years later? 1929. Just after the Roaring 20s, World War I ends, we're the victors. The Roaring 20s, there's cars and parties, and everything seems to be awesome. Sound like a period of time you can remember not long ago in this culture? Everything just exploding. Huge rewards, they call it fall. Fall, the autumn, when everything flows, it's easy, there's huge rewards. Economy goes crazy. You can buy a house, you don't even have a job. You just bullshit and get the house. They give it to you. They know you're bullshitting, they give it to you. That wasn't that long ago, was it? That was fall. Right? That's the rewarding time. So these kids, they were born in 1910 and they start to grow up in the middle of total abundance, and they expect I'm a car, I'm gonna have a radio, all these new devices and tools, what an incredible life, and right when they're about to be on their own, bam! Depression, the entire economy, banks and people jumping out of buildings. Do you think that might affect your life a little bit? If it doesn't crush you, it makes you stronger. We all heard that, but it's exactly what happened, right? Hello. It's a message from the past.
It's me.
So what happens for this group of people that make it through the Depression, and now what happens in 1939 when they're turning 30, this cool stage of life? Hitler invades Poland. World War II breaks out. And by the way, none of us were there back then. I don't think anyone in this room was around then. Looked like the whole world was going to lose. London was going to fall. Everything's being bombed. Countries are dropping like flies. The Nazis are putting people in concentration camps. It's a little more scary than right now with a virus.
Yeah.
Just a little. A little more challenging, perhaps. But guess what? That group of people won the war and came back for the third stage of life. And they started in the springtime. Think about what the late 40s, 50s, all the way up to early 60s when Kennedy was shot. Before that, there was a level of optimism in this country like no other time. That's the fall. The fall is always followed by tough times. So that's the cycle of history. And by the way, we call that generation the Great Generation. Why? Because they became so strong. By the way, they were mocked as youth because they didn't give a shit. They were flappers. They rose to the occasion. And those of you in this room that are Z or X generation, millennials, I should say Z generation probably more, you're the next heroes because we're entering the next cycle of history. We're in winter right now. But this ain't far from done, my friends. Aren't you glad you came to this inspiring day? There's a book you might want to read that I read when it was, 1997, I believe it was, it came out. I like to go to bookstores in those days, and I look at the bin where everything gets thrown away because I'm a contrarian. And I look for, so most of them are crap. There's usually a book or two that are just genius. It just doesn't ring with the culture at the time. Some of my favorite books, some of the greatest breakthroughs I've gotten from there. And it's a book called The Fourth Turning. You must read it. If you want to understand what's really happening right now, read The Fourth Turning. There's a book called Generations, but it's about 700 pages. And President Clinton gave it to me. It's what started me. And then I got this book and interviewed these guys. And it's helped me understand where the world is and how to make sense of crazy things. And I encourage you to read it. I'm not going to try and teach it all to you right now. But there's a cycle of history. You can look at 1,000 years of Roman history and see it. These cycles are about 80 to 100 years, about the long life of a person. Because when the oldest person dies, those lessons usually go with them. The next generation has not experienced this, so they make the same mistakes. But hopefully, we continue to grow. Now, why am I telling all this? Because most people are wishing it would be easier. I'm wishing we'd be better. And I'm not wishing. My prayer is not, save me, Lord. My prayer is, make me stronger and let me do my part. And if we do that, this could be the best time of your life. As I started to say, it takes to be a gladiator. A gladiator is a person who says, I know every time I go in here, my chances of dying are increased. Because by the way, in a 5-year period, 80% of businesses are gone. In a 10-year period, 96% of businesses fail in a 10-year period. 4% make it. That does not mean they're even profitable. It just means they're still standing. Now that's hard to imagine. We live in a world of Googles and Apples, where government talks about trillions of dollars and people have no idea what they're talking about, so they say that sounds cool. See, it's a tough business. In fact, this room is phenomenal. I really want to acknowledge you. You two comma people, raise your hand if you're a two comma person out there, ladies and gentlemen. I understand, I asked about 317 of you here. That's pretty awesome. Because two comma, of course, means you did $1 million in business. Which some people go, so what? Well, if you do $1 million in business, it's hard to imagine, but it's a fact. You're the top 5% of all companies on earth. Yeah! 95% of businesses. $5 million in business. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12. Looks like about 15, 18, maybe 20 people. Give them a hand, that's pretty awesome. Stand up. That is, you are 0.4% of the population of all businesses on earth. If you just do 5 million, it doesn't even mean some of you aren't profitable when you're doing 5 million, that's cool. But it's a huge jump, isn't it, from 1 to 5. 10 million, raise your hand if you're doing 10. In fact, stand up if you're doing $10 million in business. Percentages that do 10 million business, just revenue. We're not talking about 10 million in profit, just sales. 0.00006. That means 6 out of 100,000. 10 million. Give a hand for the 10 million people. Now, how many have been in business for at least a year? Stand up. You've been in business for at least 1 year. Stand up. So, you've been in business a year, you're in the top 50%. Give people a hand for that for starters. Give them a hand, come on. Sit down if you've been in business less than 5 years. Wow, very cool. Give a hand for the people standing. Nice job. 4/10%. Sit down if you've been in business less than 10 years. Less than 10. Give a hand for people your 10 years. My God, awesome job. Holy shit, there's a drop off. Give a hand to people who've been in business 20 years. Awesome. Business less than 30 years. Ooh. Give a hand to these guys. Give a hand. What business are you? What business are you? Investment banking, how many years?
35.
Give her a hand, ladies and gentlemen. How much has the investment banking business changed in 3.5 decades?
You don't recognize it.
Yeah, I know.
Like-
How the hell have you succeeded for 35 years with all those changes?
Because I've been to all your programs. And
I'll slip you that $100 later on for the thing we worked out. What have you been to?
what's that?
What programs have you done?
Everything. Day with Destiny. You know, I was with you and you could go out and run with you in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
Before we started the program at 9 o'clock.
Holy shit.
And the